He was one of only 3 people in America ever entrusted to touch the real R2-D2. Studios guarded their secrets with steel doors and silence. Lucasfilm trusted him with million-dollar props and fragile droids. On MythBusters, he built machines that defied logic and dared viewers to imagine what was possible. But behind the camera lights and humming circuitry, something far more dangerous was growing. Something invisible, yet unstoppable. During a quiet dinner on a July evening in 2020, Grant Imahara laughed with his fiancée and reached for his glass. The next moment, his world tilted. He felt dizzy, then weak, and then everything went dark. By the time paramedics arrived, doctors were racing against a silent killer inside his skull. 3 surgeries later, in a sunlit hospital room filled with beeping machines, his family faced the unthinkable, letting go. Few life stories captivate like Grant's. He was the unspoken hero of modern maker culture, the engineer-poet who saw art in circuits and poetry in programming. From a humble 2-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles to the sacred halls of Skywalker Ranch, his journey reads like a mythic odyssey. But it was real, it was raw, and it ended far too soon. Tonight, we unravel the man behind the myth. The little boy who spoke only in robot beeps after seeing Star Wars. The relentless tinkerer who disassembled his family's microwave to expose a design flaw. And the rebel scholar banned from science fairs for projects too advanced to exist. Over the next 18 minutes, you will witness a life built on precision, passion, and perseverance, only to be cut short by a brain aneurysm as sudden as it was merciless. Picture a 5-year-old Grant crouched on the living room floor, fields of circuitry spread before him like scattered dream fragments. He didn't write instructions or follow manuals. He memorized every wire and screw in his head, rebuilding broken radios and toasters with a handful of tools and a boundless curiosity. His mother, Carolyn, worked 12 hours a day at an accounting firm and spent her nights earning a business degree. Even when a better job beckoned in San Francisco, she chose Los Angeles because she believed her son belonged where opportunities for young geniuses were greatest. She turned their dining room into a makeshift lab, swapped toys for science kits, and spent 3 precious hours each night guiding her son through algebra problems and atomic theory. That first Radio Shack kit was more than a toy, it was a seed. In one single year, young Grant disassembled 38 appliances, shocking his heart nearly to a standstill when he dared to probe a live circuit at age 6. He never confessed this near-fatal mistake. He feared his mother would ban his beloved tools forever. Instead, he carried on, undeterred, until the summer he turned 7 and changed forever. May 25, 1977, Star Wars premiered. Grant sat entranced for 2 hours, watching a galaxy fill with heroes, villains, and that invaluable astromech. Afterwards, he abandoned English and communicated only in bleeps and whirs. 17 days of school vanished as he scavenged scrap metal, old radio parts, and anything that could be repurposed into his own R2-D2. By August, he had gathered more than 600 components and filled pages with blueprints so precise they rivaled college engineering diagrams. He read physics texts under a flashlight, revived the PA system at school to play the theme song, and earned a 1-day suspension for unauthorized modifications. Yet the applause that followed in the hallways was worth every hour lost in detention. Through adolescence and early adulthood, Grant's trajectory felt unstoppable. Crestview Prep granted him a full scholarship in 1984. Within 2 years, he was correcting teachers on physics problems and building autonomous robots that haunted the school corridors. By the time he graduated, he had created 13 functioning machines. While most classmates were still learning geometry, USC beckoned, and he embraced electrical engineering, only to burn out under a deluge of credits. On the verge of switching to film school, he met Tomlinson Holman, the inventor of the THX sound system. Sheer awe sparked a decision. Grant volunteered as an unpaid lab assistant, scouring Holman's stacks of schematics and breathing life into audio gear. Holman became mentor, opening doors at Lucasfilm's THX division. Fresh out of USC in 1993, Grant tested speakers and designed certification protocols, ensuring that every theater delivered identical sonic experiences. Occasionally, he donned a C-3PO suit at fan events. a small foreshadowing of how he would merge engineering with storytelling. It was a pivotal moment when ILM's model shop offered him a seat at the intersection of imagination and invention. Most model makers wielded paintbrushes or chisels. Grant wielded soldering irons and microcontrollers. Over 9 years, he brought to life circuits for the Star Wars prequels, sequels to The Matrix, and the jungles of Jurassic Park. He upgraded R2-D2 from a wheezing relic to a robust performer by swapping its wheels for wheelchair motors and replacing halogen bulbs with custom LED arrays. When Phantom Menace shot in London, producers called on Grant by name to rebuild a droid crippled by salt and uneven terrain. His unassuming dedication turned R2 into the most reliable droid in cinematic history and earned him a place among the 3 Americans licensed to operate the original unit. All of this brilliance and adventure, however, could not shield him from tragedy. On that warm evening in July 2020, Grant was living proof that talent and passion could open any door. Yet an unseen aneurysm ruptured, shattering his promise and leaving those who loved him grappling with a question as old as time. How do you reconcile a life so luminous with a death so abrupt? In 2005, Discovery Channel's MythBusters team was searching for an engineer who could take the show's ambitious builds to the next level. They found Grant Imahara. Stepping onto studio floors filled with fiberglass boat hulls, air cannons, and half-frozen sharks, he didn't just fit in. He transformed the team. With a degree in electrical engineering and years of industrial light and magic experience, Grant bridged the gap between artful fabrication and rigorous science. Where others saw bolts and blueprints, he saw stories waiting to unfold. His first days on MythBusters set the tone. In an earwax candle experiment inspired by fairy tales, the crew harvested human earwax collected from medical clinics. As they heated the wax to melt point, the air turned rancid, and Grant, with a supply of gag reflex, approached nonetheless, determined to test whether earwax could burn steadily like candle wax. When the warnings of noxious fumes rang hollow against Grant's resolve, he pressed on, documenting every degree of melting temperature, logging test durations, and ultimately concluding that while earwax might burn, safety concerns rendered the myth more nightmare than novelty. That willingness to embrace the gross, the humorous, and the scientifically curious became his trademark. Beyond the stench of experimental caution, Grant's robotic prowess became indispensable. When the team wanted a self-driving vehicle to test collision myths, Grant engineered a remote control override system, 3 redundant fail-safes, and a programmable path matrix, all hidden within a battered electric wheelchair frame. The resulting Myth Mobile survived repeated crashes that would have flattened ordinary test rigs. His insights weren't limited to electronics. He advised on material stresses, structural integrity, and even on-camera ergonomics, ensuring that the team remained safe while building spectacles that kept viewers on the edge of their seats. On screen, Grant's quiet confidence became as much a draw as the explosions themselves. Viewers watched him solder motor controllers live, fix malfunctioning hydraulics, and calmly reroute wiring at breakneck pace, even as parts flew in every direction. Off-camera, he was the first to volunteer for hazardous tasks, rigging a cannon in a submerged hopper, installing pyrotechnic triggers under freezing rain, or crawling into tight engine compartments to place high-speed cameras. His colleagues called him fearless, not because he courted danger, but because he approached risk with meticulous planning. For every stunt they dreamed up, Grant drew up safety protocols that read like military briefings, then executed them with the precision of a watchmaker. While MythBusters soared to international fame, Grant's spirit of invention found other outlets. In 2002, before his television breakthrough, he debuted a robot named Dead Blow on Comedy Central's BattleBots. Armed with a pneumatic striking hammer and an unorthodox chassis design, Dead Blow won 10 out of 17 bouts, carving a niche in an arena packed with rocket sleds and spinning blades. Unlike his teammates whose bots relied on brute force, Grant's creation combined strategic strikes with rapid recharge times, an approach he refined later in his work for Disney's Stuntronics program, where balance, timing, and micro-adjustments are essential for mid-air flips and human simulation. By 2008, Grant had helped revitalize the Energizer Bunny, America's enduring corporate mascot. Tasked with improving the animatronic performance, he designed custom circuit boards that managed power distribution for 44 individual AA cells, all while syncing percussive drum motions to pre-programmed audio cues. This was no mere marketing gimmick. Grant's work ensured that live shoots never stalled, that the bunny truly delivered on its keeps going and going promise. Every twist, every twitch of that pink fiberglass shell bore the hallmark of his meticulous engineering. Then came White Rabbit Project, a Netflix spin-off reuniting Grant with Carrie Byron and Tori Belisai. Launched in late 2016, the show embraced a fast-paced, variety format. 6 myths per episode ranging from jailbreak devices to improvised superglue. Grant's role was both builder and explainer, bringing complex concepts down to ready audiences of all ages. Even though Netflix canceled the series after 1 season, citing high production costs and too broad content, fans lauded Grant's magnetic screen presence and his ability to weave humor into hardcore engineering explanations. Between filming, Grant poured himself into passion projects. Inspired by The Mandalorian's Baby Yoda, he built a fully animatronic Grogu companion for children's hospitals. In just 3 months, he designed micro-actuators for eye blinks, a network of servo-driven neck joints for lifelike tilts, and a silicone skin layer laced with hand-placed hairs. This project wasn't corporate-sponsored. It was born of a desire to uplift sick kids with wonder and joy. Offset, Grant's personal life flourished. He proposed to costume designer Jennifer Newman at a surprise party in December 2016. In front of friends and colleagues, he dropped to one knee with a vintage 1.56-carat ring, asking her to become his partner in life's next experiment. Their relationship was a testament to balance. She brought artistry in fabric and design. He brought the logic of circuits and solder. By early 2020, Grant was deep in work on a Disney secret project codenamed Stickman, later unveiled as Stuntronics. Tasked with creating robots capable of acrobatic stunts akin to human performers at Disney parks, he fused real-time sensors, adaptive controls, and fail-safe mechanisms. These robots would dive, spin, and land with uncanny grace, opening a new chapter in robotic entertainment. The project showcased Grant's lifelong mission to fuse imagination with mechanics, art with electronics, heart with hardware. Yet as momentum built on these breakthroughs, an invisible complication grew within him. Unbeknownst to Grant and those around him, a brain aneurysm was silently expanding. The same mind that orchestrated circuits, tuned audio frequencies, and choreographed robotic leaps across stages was about to face its greatest, unseen test on the evening of July 11, 2020. Grant and Jennifer sat across each other at their favorite bistro, laughter echoing between them. A soft breeze drifted through the open patio, carrying the scent of lavender and warm bread from the kitchen. Grant lifted his glass for a toast to another summer evening together, believing nothing could go wrong. Moments later, he winced, pressing a hand to his temple as the world tilted and shadows danced behind his eyes. Jennifer reached for him, concern rising in her voice, but Grant's strength faltered under the weight of sudden, cruel pain. He tried to speak, but found his words slurred and distant. The vibrant world around him dimmed into a silent void. Jennifer dialed 911 with trembling fingers while diners stopped mid-toast, watching in shock as paramedics burst onto the scene. They loaded him onto a stretcher and sped toward the nearest hospital, sirens roaring like anguished cries in the night. In the emergency department, doctors worked swiftly to stabilize Grant, drawing scans and watching the telltale signs of a ruptured aneurysm. The void beneath his skull had grown unnoticed, an invisible trap ready to snap without warning. Within minutes, medical staff wheeled him into the operating room for the first of 3 critical surgeries. Nurses scrubbed in, and Grant, sedated yet heroic in his vulnerability, lay surrounded by beeping monitors and gleaming scalpels. Surgeons navigated delicate blood vessels, striving to halt bleeding and relieve pressure on his swollen brain. After hours under harsh lights, they emerged, cautious relief on their faces. The first procedure was a success, his lifeblood saved for now. But when they raised the curtain to check his response, his pupils remained fixed, his consciousness locked behind a fragile barrier of trauma. On the second day, Hope mingled with fear as surgeons attempted a more invasive repair to seal off the weakened vessel. Family members, his mother Carolyn, sister, and Jennifer, huddled in waiting rooms, clinging to prayers and whispered assurances. Monitor readings flickered like tiny beacons in the dark, each spike of blood pressure threatening the fragile peace they had won. The second operation lasted longer, tension palpable in every sterile corridor outside. Again, doctors emerged wearing the same hesitant expressions. Mitigation had slowed new leaks, but risks remained daunting. As Grant was moved to the intensive care unit, tubes and sensors became testaments to both his fight and doctors' resolve. With every beep, every breath measured by machines, his fate balanced on a knife's edge, held by wires thinner than spider silk. On the morning of day 3, the ICU was silent save for hushed footsteps and the low hum of ventilators. Family whispered their goodbyes, each hug and tear a mixture of love, faith, and impending loss. Surgeons convened in the hallway. The final operation would determine whether Grant's brilliant mind was lost or reclaimed. Through a tiny cranial window, they inserted coils, scaffolding the fissured artery to prevent further rupture. This painstaking process took hours, each moment stretching like taffy under the weight of possibility. At last, they closed his skull and waited for the light of recovery, watching for any sign of return in his unblinking eyes. Night fell, and in a dim corridor, Jennifer touched the glass of his room, praying for a miracle that might save them both. On July 13th, after doctors determined the damage irreversible, life support was withdrawn, and the world lost Grant at just 49. News outlets, fans, and colleagues shared grief-racked headlines. MythBusters star Grant Imahara dies. R2. D2's guardian angel gone. Adam Savage posted a raw tribute, calling him brilliant, generous, and irreplaceable, while Carrie Byron and Tori Belisai spoke of a brother taken too soon. Social media became a mosaic of memories, videos of dead blow on BattleBots, behind-the-scenes clips of electrifying builds, and selfies beside R2's spinning dome. In the weeks that followed, Discovery Channel honored him with a MythBusters marathon, and Dungeons & Dragons introduced Imahara Joe, a tinkerer with boundless imagination. On October 23rd, what would have been his 50th birthday, family and fans launched the Grant Imahara STEAM Foundation to empower young creators in engineering and science. Through auctions of his original MythBusters tools and robots, the foundation raised funds for scholarships, robotics clubs, and mentorship programs across the United States. Grant's legacy lives in every circuit drawn, every myth tested, and every young mind he inspired. Grant's impact ripples far beyond the clips we replay and the headlines we share. In classrooms from Tokyo to Toledo, his story sparks fresh eyes to see engineering as art and art as engineering. When students dismantle old toasters in school labs, they unwittingly follow his footsteps, tracing finger-smudged copper wires just as he once did. At robotics competitions, team members whisper about the Imahara approach: plan meticulously, iterate rapidly, and never fear the mess. He taught us that failure isn't a stop sign, but a signpost directing our next experiment. Behind every spark of genius lies a tangle of burnt resistors, discarded circuit boards, and scribbled margin notes. Grant embraced that chaos, coaxing creativity from every malfunction and rewriting the narrative that mistakes are disasters instead of doorways. He also redefined what it means to be a creator on screen. Before him, audiences saw explosions or machines, but rarely watched the mind behind the mechanism. Grant offered more than demonstrations. He shared his reasoning, walking viewers through each calculation, each test failure, each triumphant fix. He spoke not to impress, but to include, breaking down complex formulas in plain language, drawing parallels between high-tech labs and everyday kitchens. His ability to bridge worlds resonated with young viewers fluent in memes, but craving deeper substance. By showing the humanity in microcontrollers, he invited a generation to claim its own place in the maker movement. Suddenly, soldering irons glowed with possibility, not intimidation. Diversity and representation mattered deeply to Grant. As a Japanese American raised by a single mother, he wore his heritage quietly but proudly. He never shouted about being first or only, but his presence shattered imagined ceilings for Asian Americans in entertainment and engineering alike. On MythBusters, he wasn't a token. He was an essential pillar whose absence on screen would have tilted the entire show's balance. When he stepped back from the set in 2014, the chemistry changed, and fans noticed. His departure sparked debate, but also highlighted how central he had become. He showed viewers that brilliance wears many faces and that every story needs multiple voices to ring true. Today, scholarship recipients and mints carry his legacy forward. The STEAM Foundation he inspired offers more than financial aid. It connects novices with professionals, turning academic dreams into real-world blueprints. Through summer camps and virtual workshops, students tinker alongside virtual recordings of Grant's blueprints, recreating his early R2, D2 designs, and experimenting with servo-driven joints in replicants of Baby Yoda. Each new prototype built in those digital labs echoes his voice: test, record, improve. His mantra reminds inventors that progress is born from iteration and that today's scrap heap can yield tomorrow's breakthrough. Perhaps his greatest lesson lies in the way he balanced passion and purpose. Grant never chased fame. He chased frontiers. Whether rebuilding a droid for George Lucas or animating corporate mascots for a Chromebook, he asked, "What story can this machine tell?" He merged function with narrative, knowing audiences connect not to components, but to the wonder those components create. In our own pursuits, this insight challenges us to look beyond specifications and budgets, and instead ask how our work can inspire curiosity, empathy, and joy. In every spreadsheet, every design review, and every prototype crash test, we can honor his legacy by infusing storytelling into mechanics. As we stand at the frontier of AI, quantum computing, and interplanetary travel, it's tempting to chase the next flashy breakthrough. Yet, Grant's journey reminds us to keep one foot grounded in curiosity and the other stepping toward imagination. He showed that a backyard tinkerer can become a Hollywood staple, that a child with a Radio Shack kit can one day troubleshoot malfunctioning props on a billion-dollar film set. His life spanned the analog and digital ages, and he navigated both with equal finesse, proving adaptability is as vital as expertise. Now, as viewers, creators, and dreamers, we face our own choices. Will we allow fear of failure to paralyze our experiments? Will we limit ourselves by the rules we inherit? Or will we, like Grant, rewrite them with solder and silicone? Will we seek recognition, or will we chase the pure joy of making something new? His brief but brilliant life offers no promise of medals or fame, only a template for relentless curiosity and humane innovation. In the end, the true tragedy of Grant Imahara's passing isn't simply that we lost his ingenious hands and mind. It's that we lost the everyday inspiration his presence brought to our screens and workshops. Yet, his creations, his students, and his bold spirit persist. Each humming motor and blinking LED that carries his insights forward stands as a testament to a life lived in pursuit of wonder. As long as someone dares to tinker in a dimly lit garage, Grant's legacy will endure, reminding us that our greatest inventions begin with a single spark of curiosity and a fearless willingness to see what happens next. The spark of Grant Imahara's brilliance lives on every time someone dares to pick up a soldering iron instead of a remote control. It flickers in the low hum of a well-tuned motor, in the curious grin of a student unraveling the secrets of code, and in the patient sweat of late-night prototype solder joints. From community makerspaces in Berlin to garage workshops in Buenos Aires, a quiet revolution gathers momentum as tinkerers channel Grant's fearless spirit. They learn that creativity isn't confined to grand studios or high-tech labs, but thrives in repurposed cardboard, salvaged circuit boards, and the stubborn determination to make broken things work better. Meet Elena, a 17-year-old robotics enthusiast in Seattle who discovered Grant's story while scrolling through late-night YouTube rabbit holes. Inspired by the legend of a 7-year-old building R2, D2 from dumpster scraps, she repurposed discarded printers and old smartphone parts to build Cleopatra, a robot that paints murals by tracking color gradients. Her school banned the project at first, concerned about fumes and electrical hazards. But Elena recalled how Grant defied school rules when he hacked the PA system to broadcast the Star Wars theme. Armed with his ethos of rigorous safety planning and boundless imagination, she presented a detailed risk assessment, assembled a mentor panel of local engineers, and transformed a letter of reprimand into a showcase at the regional STEM fair. In labs around the globe, his philosophy echoes: blend art and science, and teach your audience to see the poetry in every schematic. Today's frontier isn't just mechanical arms or radio waves. It's quantum entanglement, AI-driven nanobots, habitats under Martian ice, and biohybrid prosthetics that learn and adapt. Yet the core remains timeless. Observe keenly, iterate relentlessly, and embrace failure as data, not disaster. Grant once said, "My favorite tools are the ones that force me to ask better questions." Whether wiring a microcontroller for a Baby Yoda prototype or refining AI algorithms for self-driving libraries, he believed the right question could illuminate paths no inventor ever imagined. Interdisciplinary collaboration becomes essential. Architects sketch bridges that sing in the wind, neuroscientists partner with sculptors to craft tactile brain interfaces, and chemists team with game designers to simulate out-of-this-world materials. In each joint venture, Grant's influence is unmistakable. Don't ask if it can be done. Ask how we can do it responsibly, beautifully, and with a sense of wonder. His legacy isn't a blueprint for one machine, but an open-ended invitation to rewrite the rules of possibility. Young labs display murals of his circuit diagrams side by side with abstract paintings, remembering that precision and playfulness aren't opposites, but dance partners in every innovation. Of course, fear always lurks at the threshold of invention. The fear of burning out a budget, the fear of public embarrassment when a test fails, the fear of personal limits. In contrast, Grant's life was a study in audacity measured by discipline. He faced down live wires that could stop his heart. He weathered scathing skepticism from science fair judges convinced his robots were too advanced to exist, and he returned again and again to the risk zone with disciplined protocols in hand. In his world, unknown was not a warning sign but a neon invitation. Step in, measure carefully, record obsessively, adapt swiftly, and emerge wiser. That same mindset can transform your next project. Maybe you're a seasoned engineer feeling burned out by deadlines. Or perhaps you're a total novice mystified by the tangle of color-coded wires staring back at you. Start small. Salvage a broken fan. Open it up, trace the motor coils with a multimeter, and ask why it hums at a particular frequency. Document your questions with the rigor of a lab notebook and the curiosity of a child on a quest. Combine your findings with a friend's background in digital art or programming, and before you know it, you'll be building interactive sculptures that cry out for an audience. In maker fairs and hackathons, teams inspired by Grant's methods often outperform more polished competitors. Their secret weapon isn't exclusive funding or glossy hardware. It's the relentless loop of hypothesis, test, failure, and refinement. Remember how Grant tweaked wheelchair motors onto R2D2 frames to conquer muddy backlots? Think about the constraints in your life: limited parts, tight budgets, scarce time, and ask how you might repurpose them into an advantage rather than seeing them as obstacles. Necessity, after all, is the mother of invention, but curiosity is its midwife. As viewers, you carry the final piece of his legacy: your willingness to engage with the process. Tune out the noise of what works for everyone else, and turn up the volume on what ignites your mind. Celebrate each small breakthrough, whether it's a script that compiles without errors, a wheel that spins true, or a sensor calibration that yields crisp data. Share your story freely, complete with the messy first drafts of your plans, the charred remnants of your initial experiments, and the sparks, literal or metaphorical, that set your project ablaze. In forums and live streams, treat each question as a chance to mentor another curious soul, just as Grant mentored so many before. Every blinking LED you solder, every line of code you debug, and every hypothesis you test is a note in the symphony he began conducting decades ago. His life reminds us that engineering isn't a closed book, but an open dialogue, one in which each question begets another, and each answer seeds the next mystery. So pause, breathe, and ask yourself, How will you carry forward the torch of curiosity? Will you anchor yourself in fear of failure or set sail on the winds of inquiry? The choice echoes with every heartbeat, every circuit, and every dream that refuses to be boxed in. Even as the final credits roll, remember that Grant's story never truly ends. It evolves with each spark of idea you choose to follow. His life teaches that innovation thrives in curiosity's soil, watered by patience and nourished by persistence. The morning after your first prototype fails, you'll feel discouraged, but pause and recall how he faced down live currents at age 6, heart racing, brushes smoldering, only to rise stronger and wiser. Failure wasn't an endpoint for Grant. It was the raw material of discovery, the chisel that carved knowledge from uncertainty. So when you next encounter a burned circuit board or a script riddled with bugs, see it as an invitation rather than a warning, a prompt to ask new questions, tweak old assumptions, and push beyond the comfort of safe designs. Your own workshops and studios may not boast Lucasfilm budgets or high-voltage test benches, but they do hold the power of possibility. In cardboard boxes, salvaged servo arms, and recycled microchips lies the same universe that sparked a 7-year-old boy to speak only in robot beeps. You need no permission to dream bigger. Simply start by opening a tool chest, reading an unfamiliar datasheet, or jotting down your wildest engineering fantasies. Map out a plan like Grant did, laying out goals from first test to final demo, and then break each goal into manageable steps. Celebrate each sub-goal as a milestone, from successful circuit continuity to perfect code compile, because in that constant rhythm of progress, you build not just machines but resilience and confidence. Equally vital is the community you cultivate. Grant's passion found fuel in mentors and peers who challenged, supported, and sometimes laughed along when unexpected explosions disrupted the lab. Seek out local maker spaces, online forums, or university clubs where you can share triumphs and stumbles alike. Offer to review someone's wiring diagram or help debug a friend's 3D printing misfeed. In every collaborative exchange, you honor Grant's belief that ideas grow richer when minds connect. He showed us that even the smallest voices can shift paradigms. Just one question, one suggestion, or one new perspective can unlock breakthroughs no single inventor could foresee. As you embark on your next project, remember to weave storytelling into your process. Inspired by Grant's ability to marry circuits with narrative, think through the audience you want to captivate. Are you building a robot that can paint, like Elena's Cleopatra? Frame it as a living canvas that translates emotion into color. Are you coding an app that monitors soil moisture for urban farmers? Present it as a silent guardian of seedling dreams. Each device, after all, is more than wires and code. It's a promise of what can be achieved when intellect meets imagination. Craft your presentation so that it draws listeners into the suspense of your tests, the thrill of your refinements, and the lasting joy of the final reveal. Grant's final, silent chapters remind us that brilliance coexists with vulnerability. He wrestled with forces he could not see, an aneurysm rupturing in secret, but he faced it with the same courage he brought to every live build. In honoring his memory, consider how you might use your own work to address challenges beyond the workshop. Could your next invention assist people with disabilities? Might your coding skills protect privacy in an age of mass data collection? Ask how your technical gifts can serve a broader purpose. Just as Grant built Baby Yoda robots to comfort children in hospitals and mentored students whose futures would otherwise go unlit. Now stop reading and start doing. Open that drawer of soldering iron bits, power up your multimeter, and sketch your next bold design without second-guessing. Embrace the unknown with meticulous planning and unbridled creativity. When your hands tremble with anticipation or your mind buzzes with nerves, remember the 7-year-old Grant Imahara who spoke only in bleeps because his heart knew the language of invention. Trust that same inner voice and let it guide you through every test, every failure, and every triumph. In doing so, you carry forward a legacy built on wonder, perseverance, and the belief that the next great discovery might just be the one you haven't dared to attempt yet.